yeah, last year was very expensive. Fremont Christine Reese is not here, but Christine was on the audit committee. She's running very hard for Fremont City Treasurer. I myself am running for fourth school council, and Tim Honecker is running for fourth school council. Do we have any, what's that? Do we have any discussion for 2021 elections?
I guess that would be me.
What's that?
I guess that would be my time to speak.
If you have a few words to say, well, you can say it.
I would like to ask the committee to change their position on my endorsement. Like I said, I believe that the Republican Party is the party of due process. And I had to work the Monday that we had this meeting, and I was unable to make it. And I would like the party to consider endorsing me. And I would like to give reasons why. But I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know if this is my time to speak or what do you want to do. So,
if you want to speak and express your concerns, that is your right to do so. So let's get the time to do it.
well, I received a letter in the mail shortly after the last central meeting, and it said that I was not endorsed because of my negativity. Okay? And while I can understand some people think I am negative or I have been negative, I wrote a letter to three or four people that were on my letter: Justin Smith, Ben Decker, Vicky Husk, and I explained to them how I felt. And the reason why I was being not endorsed was because of negativity. But negativity can be construed because if you don't agree with something that is said, that doesn't make it negative. You just don't agree with it. And the party is setting a very bad precedent because there's been a lot of negativity out of this, party in the last many years. You had Gary Click, who ran a very negative campaign against his candidates. He was very negative towards another Republican, Melissa Atkinson. He was negative against Chris Liebolt. And most of us here are glad that he beat Chris Liebolt, but he was still negative and still received the endorsement of the Republican Party. Tim Bruan, I spoke out against Tim Bruan. I hope that the party does not hold that against me because I stood up for the women. I know our sheriff, he stood up against Tim Bruan. So I don't know why that would be considered negative. Bill Reinke ran a very negative campaign. Donald Trump, when he ran for office many years ago, he ran a very negative campaign and was still endorsed by this party. Scott Miller ran a very negative campaign against John Havens last spring and was still endorsed by the party.
I have a question, and I don't agree with it at all.
Well, not everybody agrees with that.
I'm just going to tell you that's not true.
I was told, just like in the last few days, they brought up your name when I brought this up. So different ones feel like what happened at Sacred Heart was negative. And that's a matter of opinion. And then you have Kyle Overmyer, who was going to go to prison, and yet the party still endorsed him. But yet they won't endorse me, who's a constitutional conservative. Okay, 2 years ago I ran against Mayor Sanchez. Part of me wishes that I would have ran for council because I could be doing more for the city right now. But part of me is glad that I did because many of the things that I asked or was running on happened during the last few years. So while I was projected as negative, I got things done, and I'm very proud of that. But in my opinion, to say that I'm not going to be endorsed because I was negative, I don't buy into that because there's been a lot of things happening inside of our party. And I do believe that the main reason why I was not endorsed was because I marched in the Memorial Day parade. And that's unfortunate because I believe that this is the party of freedom, the party of liberty, the party of free speech. And And to me, to hold that against me, it's just not right. So I would like for the party to endorse me. I already have my hands, full with Jim Sleek. Number one, he's incumbent, so the incumbents always have the heads up. He's going to have the money. He's going to have the endorsements. He's in a band, and the area that I live in is heavily Democrat. So I already have my hands full, and I know that during this last several months, I've been running a very positive campaign, and that's what I planned to do. Before my Facebook got shut down, I even told the people that we were not going to talk negative about anybody, whether it was Jim Sleek or any of the candidates. And that's the way that I want to run. So I would like for the party to reconsider and endorse me. Now, one of the things that I was told was small businesses don't want me. I find that hard to believe because I would stand up for small businesses. During the last year, not one council person, not one Republican council person, or our mayor stood up for our small businesses.
That's not true. We stood up for opposed.
During the campaign or during the council meetings?
Well, that wasn't my decision. That was the council president.
Okay, but as a party, they could have rallied together and at least proposed something. But you can't do that when Democrats are, in control. And it bothers me that we would allow Ward 3 to go unopposed and Ward 2 to go unopposed just because they're likable or that we can work with them. And to me, we're strong as a party as a county, but as a city, not so strong. And it bothers me that, we would let a person that would stand up for small businesses, a person that would fight for our youth, fight for our freedoms, just be thrown away like they mean nothing. And I know I take a lot of slack because of the last election. And I know one of the reasons is because of Bishop Bowen, who's sitting right next to me. A lot of people don't like him, don't like what he has to say, but he's not running for council. I am. And even if you don't like what he has to say or what I have to say, this is something called the Constitution and free speech. So, and I'll close with this one thing. During the Reagan dinner, Jim Jordan talked about cancel culture. I expect that from Democrats, okay? I expect them to want to cancel people because they don't like what they have to say. But I don't expect that from the Republican Party. And Jim Jordan talked specifically about that, and everyone here agreed with him. But yeah, I've been canceled. I just don't understand why.
Let's go back to the parade.
Okay.
You said in your remarks that you believe that a lot of it had to do with you marching as a Memorial Day parade.
Yes.
And I would, Mr. Roberts, I would concur with you on that. So let's back up a few years to the Republican Party. We used to march the Memorial Day parade. Justin and I felt very strongly that we should be able to march in the Memorial Day parade. We kind of fought that battle for a while. There was a lot of veterans who very disagreed with us very, very strongly on that. One of them works for me. Okay? One of them is a subcontractor for me. These are people that I interact with on a day-to-day basis on a professional level. And I got a lot of people saying, no, we're not marching. It's disrespectful to veterans. We feel it's disrespectful. So Justin and I spent, Justin more so than I, but there was a lot of input that went into that. That was not an easy decision. It wasn't a decision that we made in 1 or 2 meetings. I think there was probably 3 or 4 meetings that we had in regards to that issue. So that was an agreement that was made in the end between the Democratic and the Republican Party. And that was an agreement that we said, yeah, we'll stick with it. We'll stick behind it. We'll make it happen. When you came to the party, back in January, I believe it was December, and you asked to be a part of it. You know, we knew that you had ran a negative campaign against Dan Sanchez, okay? But there have been, you know, negative campaigns and people have moved on from that. But when you turn around and then say, I'm marching in the Memorial Day Parade, and then we say, we don't really like that idea because we have this agreement, and then we have veterans who we know the minute this happened, they're going to be upset. And believe me, I have heard about them in relation to you marching in the parade. There have been phone calls made that I have had field, and not just from one individual, asking me kind of what the deal was on that because they know I was politically involved. That puts us in a really, really tight spot. Because now we've told the Democratic Party we're not going to do this. We've discussed this among the Republican Party, and your answer to that is, well, I don't care, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. So I ask you to be a little bit understanding in regards to the parade. Now, in regards to the other issues, I'd specifically like to deal with, you know, some negative things. Let's just take out of that Gary Click. The incident that occurred with Gary Click and Melissa Atkinson was a one-time thing. It did get very ugly, and there was a lot of fallout from that. But I will say from that, Gary did a very good job of working through that, getting past that, and I think Gary has turned around and done a good job of running a positive campaign and kind of putting that behind it. That was a difficult thing. With reference to Kyle Overmyer, the Tim Bruan situation, this has been something that our party has had to deal with from time to time. Our party has had a pretty strong stance in that regard, in that we're not going to jump the gun on an accusation. And I'll tell you why. So there's three big scandals that have come to my mind in the last 10 years. Kyle Overmyer, Tim Bruan, and Charlie Schwolble. Now, we all know that Charlie Schwolble was a hoax. It turned out to be nothing. Okay? And when push came to shove and it got to court, everybody backed down because they realized that it was a hoax. Now, in reference to Tim Bruan, we waited about 6 months on that one. We did ask him to resign. We did, and it passed unanimously when he resigned. Believe it or not, that case is still ongoing. It hasn't even been resolved. He had pleaded to his guilty for second-degree misdemeanor, or second-degree felony. Sorry, it's not misdemeanor. This is a misdemeanor. So it was a very minor charge, but that is an ongoing case. Okay, we did act on that, but we waited for an indictment. Same thing with Kyle Overmyer. Now, he was out of the race at the time the indictment came down, and we appointed someone to replace him. So I think we have acted on those cases, but there's been a reason why we waited on some of those cases. And my hope with you, Mr. Roberts, is not that we create a big to-do surrounding this particular candidacy for city council. My hope is that, in light of the fact that there was some negativity in the previous campaign, and you insisted in running the campaign, that we as a Republican Party don't want to get involved in any kind of a smear campaign with you or anybody that's involved with you. We want to merely create a stance where we says, you do your thing, but we're not going to actively participate in endorsing your campaign. In the event that, you know, things change, feelings change, and people in Central Committee feel like, you know, you are not going to do things like go out and march in the Memorial Day Parade. Could things change and could, you know, down the road, could we endorse you as a candidate and not have this problem? I would say that's a possibility, but that has to be predicated on you respecting what the party has already said, specifically in relation to marching in the Memorial Day parade. So I'm in favor of staying where we're at on this. Writing this one out, we're not going to get involved in a smear campaign against you. We're not going to target you. We're going to sit this one out, though, because we think it's the right thing to do, and it honors our commitment to the veterans. I understand this was made ahead of time, but you had indicated very strongly that you were marching in the parade. Either way, and because there had been a lot of negativity, we felt like this was a justified action at this time. And my advice to you is run a positive campaign, build relationships in the community. Don't go against the party unnecessarily, and see where that takes you in life. Because I think you'll get a lot more traction off of that than what you got off of marching in a Memorial Day parade. I don't know if anybody else wants to weigh in on that at all.
I was just thinking, if you're truly conservative and if Mr. Sleep is a Republican, he is a Democrat.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I was going to say, why wouldn't you just run for an enlarged position?
No, he's running as a Democrat.
Okay, I didn't know that.
City council lines get a little blurry.
Do we have any other concerns or any comments on this topic, or do we move on to the next?
So is this how the whole party feels? I mean, I'm glad that the 2 hours
I'm not asking you to step down from the party in any way, shape, or form. But you have a seat on this party. What we're asking of the party is that we sit this one out and not get to a goal because of some of the things that are going on.
It shows very mixed signals. And to me, I think you should let the people decide. What you're showing, what you're really telling the people is that I'm not a puppet. And I get it, I'm not. I'm not a puppet. I'm not endorsed by the elite. I'm not endorsed by the establishment. I get it. I'm an outsider. And what you're telling the people is, we don't stand by. The comment was made that a person that was marching in the parade doesn't represent our values. I don't represent freedom and liberty and the Constitution. You see, and that's where we differ on things, because I do.
So I think what you're mixing up what I said there a little bit. I'm saying that you didn't honor the agreement we had to not march in the parade.
The party as a whole made that decision. But can you really say, well, you can't as an individual march?
You can as an individual do whatever you want.
And that's what I did.
But as a member of our party, we've already made the agreement. So when you're out there in the parade, we're saying as a party, respectfully, so when a veteran calls me and says, hey, what's going on here? I thought we had an agreement. Well, we're not going to put politics in the parade. I'm going to say, well, he basically went against our agreement that we had. And we're staying out of his campaign right now because he's not aligning himself with what we felt were good values to have in the party, namely staying out of the parade. Now, that decision wasn't made lightly. And I can tell you, Justin and I were opposed to it to begin with. But we made the decision and we're going to stick by it.
Well, good values, discrimination is not good values.
It's not discrimination.
Well, to say that one group
respect.
To say that one group can march but one can't. It's like saying if you're black,
we're saying the whole politics
black. So what does a politician running? That's wrong. But like cowboy camp, how is that honoring the fallen? When I marched in that parade, I didn't pass out literature. We passed out candy. We had flags, and we honored the veterans and our fallen.
I think we let this issue rest. But we ask you respectfully to honor our decision to let us sit this one out, and then if we want to see how things go in the future, things may be different. But at this particular time, because of what's happened. We as a party just want to sit this one out and let it ride.
Okay, before Bishop starts.
Well, and I'll say that,
So let me,
not a member of the committee, but
he's still a
At the
guest.
end of the meeting, whoever speaks at the end.
But when you had the meeting with me, you had several people speaking during that time that were not part of the committee.
they were members.
No, several that spoke were not part of the, because I was told that some people that spoke were not part of the committee.
Well, we do ask for guest concerns at the end of the meeting.
At the end of our meeting, we open it up to you.
Okay, so I'm not going to be indoors. Okay, I get it. So my question becomes, do I have a part in the farmer's market?
The farmer's market, when the Republican Party is not having a attack at the farmer's market. And Christine Reese is hosting it.
With all due respect, again, we've asked that we're gonna sit out of this one.
Okay, so
that includes the farmer's market.
I'm not there. Okay, that's all I want to know.
Because I'm still taking track of the break. And not that that's any of your concern, but I do think that we're respectfully asking that the party just be allowed to sit out on this particular race for this election cycle. And I'm not going to make a big deal about that. I'm not putting up flyers, I'm not putting up posters, I'm not targeting what
You are not per se, but leaders in this party are. And that's the dilemma that I am facing. You have commissioners and you have representatives that are out there spreading, happily that I'm not endorsed.
And I would say that if that is something that you have a problem with, an individual elected official saying something, I would address that.
Anything else.
The party has sent something to the members only. We have not gone beyond that. We don't intend to go beyond that. If you have a problem with what you feel is slander being allowed to by a certain elected official, I would encourage you to take that up with that individual, with that particular individual, in reference to a specific event. I can tell you right now, I've had a very simple answer to the veterans that I spoke to and several other people, and it's been simply because of the issues we're basically sitting out of this. We voted to not endorse. I don't get into it with anybody beyond that. I try not to, because I feel like it's not really my place to make that an issue. You know what I'm saying? You as a candidate should be allowed to do what you want to do. I'm not going to go out and actively run for Mr. Sleep or run against you or anything like that. So.
And you made a comment that you voted for this. Was it just you and Dustin?
It was a unanimous
It was central committee. And we did have a quorum that day. And Mr. Roberts was sent a letter in regards to that. So that we were having that. We copied that letter.
There was a meeting concerning what?
The May 17th, 2021 meeting. We did send you a letter.
Yeah, like 3 days before.
Well, you got it the same day as Richard Blue, the same day as Jimmy Thatcher. What's that? Okay. Anything else? And I vote for Republican and Democratic. All right, anybody else? Anybody from the public?
Yes. As far as the parade, he did not march in that parade as a Republican whole. He marched as an individual candidate, which was his constitutional right. Furthermore, we have the attorney letter that was drafted up with the VFW in agreement that he could march. So they came to a mutual decision because it was going to court, and they settled out of court and gave him the permission to march in the Memorial Day parade. So the VFW got a hold of the attorney, said, let's settle out of court, and that's exactly what they did. So it was not nothing that he was trying to shed bad light on this committee. because he had a constitutional right under the Constitution to march as an individual candidate. And that is the reason he did that. And there is court documents and court papers, and we have every bit of it. And the attorney told me very clearly, he said, if there's any retaliation, we can go back and deal with it. And I'm assured that we will probably go back, because this is about a constitutional fundamental right. And if you all can interject into a campaign where he did not mention the Republican Party at all, that he was paying respects to the veterans, and he passed out flags. He gave the veterans a little pen and a card thanking them for their service, then we've got a major issue with conservative values. So I don't know if you all were familiar or not, but I wanted to let you know he did have permission. The attorney drawed up the paperwork, and it was submitted to the VFW, and I have a copy of those letters. So it was not that he was doing anything outside of what he was allowed to do. And we even told Justin he was marching. Justin said, as an individual, he can do whatever he wants.
Well, I stand by that today, but that's not. When he marched, you guys marched. Well, so here's the thing, though. Yes, you marched. After you ran around threatening lawsuits. Now, is that your constitutional right to sue and to be sued? Yes, it is. But we're talking about trying to have you guys build rapport with the Republican Party, with the community, be respected in the community. The way to do that is not to go to veterans, threaten to sue them, and then the veterans say, you know what, we don't want to deal with it, because we know in the end, yes, can we force them not to? Probably not, because it's a constitutional free speech issue.
Exactly.
We don't want to get involved in that. We thought, and I'm speaking on behalf of the veterans, we thought that we had a mutually respected agreement in the community that they weren't, that they would not march, but we don't want to go to court for it. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement to march, that they found out and said we don't want to get into a court battle over it, so they let you march. So I think what I want to get back to on this, though, is as a candidate, what we want to see is we want to see you guys develop a good relationship with us, with the community, one that's based on respect, one that's based on trust. And running around threatening to sue the VFW because you don't like what they're doing is not building trust with this community or with the Republican Party.
First of all, I'm not a puppet.
I understand that.
And number two,
as a politician, certainly you want to do things that give you a good feeling in the community.
Most of the people in this community respects me because I'm an archbishop.
Well, okay.
So to say I'm not respected,
but the archbishop part, this was done as a private citizen. Okay. So you're not suing them as an archbishop. You're suing them as a private.
Oh, I sued them on the basis of the church.
Okay. So, but this matter, whether or not you're part of the church, is Mr. Robertson, and that's all well and good. But the candidacy is based on your residency. Your ability to sue is based on your residency in the city of Fremont. So what I'm going to bring back to you on this point is, I understand you have a constitutional right to sue. I don't in any way want to diminish that is your right. To sue and be sued, it's fundamental right of a human being and a citizen. But it does not put you guys in a very good light. It does not put the party in a very good light. And it certainly doesn't build trust with the veterans when you threaten to sue them because you don't like a gentlemanly agreement that has been made, which they've worked on for years and asked us to respect. And you say, well, we're not going to respect that, and if you don't like it, we're going to sue you. It's just not building that trust.
that we want to see you have as a candidate with our community. We don't elect candidates. You know, when Rick Rude or Danny Oddie were running for office, they weren't running around threatening to sue people. They were running around talking about what they wanted to do in the city of Fremont, and that's how you build trust and respect for people. I really, and like I said, I really take issue with the whole lawsuit with the veterans because it absolutely puts you in a terrible light.
Well, we'll let the people decide.
And they will.
They will.
All right, anything else need to come before the committee? Yes, Bubba. Thank you. My name's Ted Kohler.
So, anyways, let's kindly back up here for a moment. So the main problem they have with Bishop Roberts is because he marched in the Memorial Day parade. That's his constitutional right. So they're basically saying, we don't care about your rights as long as our rights is preserved. I fought in 2019 when this came out that it was unconstitutional. We did so in 2020 and 2021, and we even took it to court in 2021 because of it being a constitutional issue of free speech, because there is a double standard here. What these people needs to do is stop being spineless politicians and playing politics and stand up for conservative values, which is liberty first, free speech, free market, lower taxes, and stop with this personal attack against Bishop Roberts. We know who's behind all of this, and that is neither here nor there, but Bishop Roberts is a God-fearing man who believes in checks and balances, and this makes them very afraid and upset because they want to have control. This isn't about truth, and this isn't about fairness. This is about a double standard that we are seeing in the political Sandusky County Republican Party, and it is unjust, it is unfair, and plain evil. And it is a dangerous message that is being sent that if you're not our puppet, we don't want you and we will punish you. And this is the collusion of what we have gotten. And I'm under the understanding that they're not very patriotic by doing this. This is a lack of patriotism, if anything. This is just political hogwash is what this is. One can never predict the future, but I assure you that I think that the Sandusky County Republican Party is going to have some things that comes back and bite them in the rear, because you can't stir up division and trouble like this and do an injustice as the manner as they have. Now, as you heard it, they didn't want to hear anything else. Ben Decker had admitted, if you listen to him, that he used his position as a construction worker with his people complaining to him to go to the Central Committee and have Roberts dealt with. So he used his political position. I would point out, too, just like Bishop Roberts did in the conversation, that the Republican Party backed Overmyer, Tim Bruan, they backed Gary Click, they backed Sanchez, they backed Scott, even with Scott doing what he did to John Havens in the county commissioner race with the Biscotti dinner at Sacred Heart Church and had him kicked out. Scott was part of having Andy Roberts kicked out. But this is just a critical thing that people needs to know. Andy Roberts has not committed a crime. He just fought for the people and fought for his rights. And it is appalling that the Sandusky County Republican Party is willing to do what they have done simply because he fought for his constitutional rights. When does the Republican Party get to tell you what you can or cannot do? We fought this and we opposed it in 2019, 2020, and 2021. And then we ended up winning. And so therefore we march, because I find it disrespectful to tell someone that they can't march in a parade when our family members personally died in wars, was lamed in wars, and was wounded in wars. And you mean to tell me that they died for my freedom, but yet I cannot march in a Memorial Day parade? What is the big deal when you've got all of these other identities marching in the Memorial Day parade, including Reverend Click with Cowboy Camp, and he's part of the Republican Party, but nothing happened to him for marching in the Memorial Day parade. Roberts ran as an independent candidate in the 2019 election. When does the Republican Party get to tell him what kind of a political campaign he can run or cannot run as an independent candidate? He wasn't even a Republican candidate. So how can you punish him? You know, cities of Fremont's got this slogan, "Together we can," but this is far from together we can. They are clearly out to cause him pain and harm and mental suffering and humiliate him for marching in the Memorial Day parade. They're giving in to the cancel culture. Cancel culture is about, it's not about accountability. It's a negativeness in a sense. Cancel culture means shutting people out of jobs and opportunities like they are Bishop Roberts, platforms or social settings, and attempting to financially cripple them, which what they are doing. And, you know, Bishop Roberts doesn't deserve this. He's fighting for the people, and they don't like it. He's not there to make friends, people. He is there to fight for the people of his ward. And I would just like to tell you all that he is a real leader. He fights for the people. He's reliable, a man of faith, a brilliant, sharp, talented, bold man with, you know, a honest message. And they're sending a false message that he's a negative troublemaker of the community, which is defamation to his character. And what they're doing is they are betraying him, and I call it treason, plain and simple. I don't miss words, and people that knows me knows that. This isn't a true patriotism. You know, this is unfair. And he's under a lot of scrutiny because he marched, and he is a freedom fighter, and he believes in doing what is right even when nobody else is looking. You know, Bishop Roberts grew up with a mother who labored every day. She watched and taught him how to be a passionate, kind, strong, courageous person, to fight for social justice, injustice, equality, inclusion, and diversity. And she was a person that loved ministry, and he loves ministry. And he wanted to serve his city as city council, but yet he's attacked on every side for his stand, and because he holds them accountable. They do not want to be held accountable, so they have sent the hit squad and the mob, and it is very alarming to me. You know, he has a constitutional right to run his campaign as he sees fit, but yet they're interjecting and saying, no, we're not going to endorse you. We're going to take your funding. We're going to take everything that you have. Your First Amendment right doesn't matter. We're going to violate it, and then we're going to assassinate your character. This is corrupt. It is unacceptable, and I hope that the people with me putting this video out or this voice recording will just come to the light of what this is really about. You heard it with your own ears. It is a political bunch of hogwash, and injustice anywhere is just injustice everywhere. And anyone that accepts evil such as this is involved in it. He who helps to conceal it, he who does not do nothing against it, does not protest against it, does not speak out against it, does not rally against it, is as much as cooperating with what is going on. But I guarantee you that Bishop Roberts is a warrior, and he's like the Energizer Bunny. He just keeps going, people, because he's fighting for something that he believes in. And he's fighting for the people of District 2, of Ward 2. He is a constitutional conservative. Where is the conservativeness in this Republican Party? They are working with cancel culture. They are trying to silence people. The ugly truth is that they are not going to stop. They start with Bishop Roberts, the first person ever in the history. Let me give you a statistic here. They had him kicked out of the zoning board. He put in an application. They would not let him join that. He asked to be in the park to volunteer. They would not let him even volunteer in the parks. The Mayor Sanchez, because he is so resentful that Bishop Roberts brought some things out against him. Then they attacked him at the Kiwanis Club and would not let him be a part of that. And now the Republican Party is doing this, and then the Tea Party did not invite him to the event in our park and allowed Danny Sanchez to get up and spew all kinds of rhetoric and hate and division, and did not even do anything to stop it, and would not let Bishop Roberts speak at that event. People, this is the reality. This is what we're fighting for. We are fighting so that people will have a voice. We are fighting so that people can voice their opinion in our city. This is our city. This is everybody's city. But if you are poor, you are on the wrong side of the tracks, they ain't going to let you have a voice. If you are not in the elite club and you in the big boys club, I guarantee you Fremont, Ohio is not going to let you have a voice. So with that, I'm going to close and ask you all to remember what is going on here in Fremont, Ohio, and to get the truth out that Andy Roberts is the only one standing up and fighting for conservative values in Fremont. Don't let people send a false narrative that he is a troublemaker, because he is not. You heard it with your own ears. All of the other stuff that was going on, none of them was punished or disciplined. But somehow they want to silence Bishop Roberts. Maybe that's because he's fighting for the people and fighting for his constitution or rights, and it makes them look bad. Until next time, God bless the United States of America. God bless the great city of Fremont, Ohio, and may God have his way in this city, and may the Lord see in the favor of Bishop Roberts as our next Ward 2 City Council. God bless you. This has been an educational video, and it is not endorsed by any party or any person. I, Archbishop Liebolt, presiding primate an apostolic father of the Church of God at the Apostolic Faith and Ministerial Association, wanted to set the record straight. And I am also with Fremont News, and I found that it was critical to bring you the truth and not this false narrative that they are painting. God bless you.